Good evening. I'm Randy. Ooh, that's hot, hot, hot. I'm Randy Vivian. I'm President and CEO of the Victoria Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Tonight we have three debates or three information sessions that we're going to give tonight. We'll have the mayor's race, we'll have the city council race, we will bring them both up at the same time, and then we will finish with the VISD trustees race. I want to thank y'all for being here, and I'm going to ask her to hold those up for me. If you have not registered to vote, Thursday is the last day that you are able to register to vote. Those are applications to vote. If you'll fill that out and get those to the elections office, we'll be able to have you on the rolls to vote. I remind our viewers that voting will start 2 weeks prior to the event or to the election. And also, if you have not registered to vote, you need to register to vote by Thursday. We will start tonight with the mayor's race. But first, I want to say that we have several sponsors tonight. Of course, the Victoria Chamber of Commerce, the Golden Crescent African American Chamber of Commerce, Victoria Advocate. We want to thank the University of Houston Victoria for allowing us the use of this facility tonight. So, our first race will be the mayor's race. Our candidates are Vic Morgan, Raleigh McCoy, Brent Carter, and Steve Meacham. We picked a number in the back, and we put the order together. Dr. Morgan will be the first to give his opening statement. Dr. Morgan, I invite you to the podium.
Thank you, Randy. Is that gonna?
Yeah, go ahead just a little bit.
How's everybody this evening? Good. We're glad you're here. I appreciate you being here. I'm Vic Morgan, and I'm honored to be part of this group this evening. I would tell you that my experience and my proven leadership are what I bring to the table. I've been a university president for 25 years, and universities are an awful lot like cities. They have a lot of the same problems, and let me assure you, we have no money at the universities or in the city. So it's a unique situation that we're going to deal with. In each of my last two positions, both here at UHB and at Sullivan State University, I oversaw over $100 million worth of infrastructure planning and construction. So I have those experiences that I bring to the table. I will tell you that having come to Victoria in about the last 5 years, I'm the newcomer in the group. But that gives me a unique perspective, a different perspective on the things that are happening in Victoria. It gives me a new opportunity to look at things in a different way and to share expertise from those differences. Finally, of all the four candidates, I am the only candidate that's going to devote full time to this job. I have nothing else to do in that sense except to serve as your mayor. And I want to be the mayor of all of the citizens of Victoria. Thank you.
Our next candidate for mayor is Raleigh McCoy.
Good evening. I'm Raleigh McCoy, and I'm running for mayor of Victoria because I love this city and want to see it grow and prosper. And I have the experience and know how to make that happen. Victoria is a wonderful place with great potential, but we have fallen behind recently. We have not developed a sustainable base of higher-paying local jobs. Several of our major retail and commercial businesses have closed, and we have difficulty retaining talent and attracting top-tier economic development in all sectors. We as a community need to get serious about revitalizing our economic vision, repairing an aging infrastructure, improving emergency preparedness, and expecting our city to be managed like a well-run business. And when I speak about community, I mean all parts of the community, north, south, east, and west. The mayor is the only at-large council position elected, and I intend to represent all of Victoria if I'm so fortunate to be elected mayor. Thank you.
next candidate is Brent Carter. Mr. Carter.
Victoria is at a literal crossroads much larger than our location on the map. We must decide whether to remain a sleepy little town or move forward and embrace the opportunities that our fantastic location offers. All ships rise on an incoming tide, and Victoria's time is now. Politics is the enemy of progress. We will respect people, recognize effort, and reward performance as we streamline city services and maximize production on behalf of all our citizens, no matter their neighborhood. Actions speak louder than words, and mine will be leadership in action from day one. Our city needs to promote itself in order to bring new businesses here. I will work closely with the Chamber and with the VEDC to help sell Victoria to the world. My skill set is ideally suited to closing these types of deals, as I can speak from experience of the economic impact those companies will have on our city. My insurance experience gives me a broad understanding of how business-to-business sales work, and I'll work for you.
Mr. Meacham.
Thank you. Howdy. My name's Steve Meacham, and I am I'm a financial advisor here in this town. I work with people to help formulate long-term plans to plan for their future. We need to be doing some things here to plan for some long-term future in Victoria, Texas, and I think I'm suited to do that. I view all of y'all as my neighbors. We can talk all the things about what goes on in the city, about streets and whatever, but I'm not so much focused on the streets as the people that live on those streets. You're all my neighbors. Anything that I try to do for y'all, if I take it with the mindset that I'm making every decision or trying to influence every policy that's going to affect my neighbor, my next door neighbor, my neighbor down the street, my neighbor across town, I cannot make a bad decision for the wrong reason. I can make a bad decision, and we may not go do it, and I'm still capable of that, but I won't be doing it for the wrong reason, because I will be thinking about you as my neighbor first. Love y'all as my neighbor like I love myself. Thank you.
Our first question will go to Dr. Morgan. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The question is, what has been the most publicly controversial issue with which you have dealt? What was your role in the issue, and how did you resolve it?
I guess since I've been in Victoria, probably somewhat controversial is this street, Ben Wilson, out here. My role in that was that I was the president of the university, and we saw that as where our future lay. We needed that street to be modified because we're building a building across the street. We're building a campus across the street, and students have to be able to get back and forth across Ben Wilson. So my role was to advocate for that street. I visited with city council. I visited with citizens. I went all over this community talking to people about the importance of modifying Ben Wilson to accommodate a university and its students in a very special way. So that was, I believe, my most controversial issue and what I had to deal with.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Mr. McCoy, I'll repeat the question, and it is, what has been the most publicly controversial issue with which, let me start all over. How about that? What has been the most publicly controversial issue with which you have dealt? What was your role in the issue, and how did you resolve it?
Well, at 40 years and working for a lot of different public entities, I'll stick to Victoria. Okay. Probably the most recent one was an issue with Victoria County when I was working as an architect on some particular issues out at the Juvenile Detention Center, discovered that building was not in compliance with current codes. And we went through a period of having to convince the community that indeed the facility wasn't in compliance. There was a component of that ended up a political issue. My part in it was simply the issue of being the architect. So I stuck to the issue that I was assigned to take care of, stuck it out with the patience of the commissioners, and ultimately we came up with a solution which corrected that facility, and that now that facility is in full compliance with state standards. So sometimes you have to weather the storm to come up with a proper solution and end to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. All right. Mr. Carter. And I'm going to try to do it on the first time this time.
Okay.
What has been the most publicly controversial issue with which you have dealt? What was your role in the issue, and how did you resolve it?
Well, if you call getting indicted by the United States government an issue, I would say that would easily be my most controversial moment ever. Almost a decade ago, while working in the Valley with a fairly sophisticated insurance client, what should have been an out-of-court civil suit, you hear people say, don't make a federal case out of it. Well, the feds did, and came down to the Valley and threw a big cast net, which happened to engulf me. So my role in it, and what I ultimately proved after 2 weeks in federal court, was that I was the wrongfully accused. I had a coworker, a boss, who ended up being convicted of 3 counts of mail fraud involving something that wasn't even ultimately related to the insurance itself. It was all about how things were disclosed and not disclosed. And fortunately, I literally say, thank God, I didn't have a role in any of that, and proved such in federal court. But my role, I find that tough times don't shape character, they reveal it. And either you choose to be a victim or you choose to stand and fight. And I was wrongfully accused, and I welcomed the challenge to face that head on. I welcome the challenge to tell each of you, the federal government came in, seized 401ks, cost me tons of money. They have an amazing amount of privilege and very little accountability. And I turned down a couple of plea deals and have lived to survive and came home to thrive. Victoria, Texas welcomed me back, and I rebuilt a business from the very bare bottom of nothing. And I've been very blessed by this city, which now you have a little insight into why I might want to serve. So thank you for the question, and I feel like that one was directed for me. So thank you.
Mr. Beecher?
I don't get that. I think I've got it right. Maybe in the essence of time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It helps me a lot.
You
So,
bet,
yeah.
you bet. And I've not worked a lot in the public sector. So when you talk about the public sector, some issue that you faced in that was controversial, I've primarily worked in the private sector. But I've had to deal with some controversial deals in the private sector as well. Brent kind of bared his soul a little bit about some issues that he had, and I can tell you 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago now, I had a parting of the ways with the institution that I worked with. And I had to remake my life over here again in Victoria. And I wasn't going to leave Victoria. You couldn't have run me out of here with a switch. I got a son that was growing up here still and was going to school, and he's recently this last year graduated from West High School. So I had to remake myself here in order to be here for him and for that. And I heard everything about the reasons why I left the bank, was everything about the affairs that I'd had and drunk driving in bank cars to, I mean, just outlandish things about why I was no longer there. So you have to sit there. You got to get tough, and I'm tough like that. I'm gonna survive those things. So anyway, I think I've got some of those same skills like that. That you're not gonna run me out of this deal, and I'm still gonna do here. I'm stepping up here for y'all, just like I wanted to step here and create myself all over again for my child and my family here in Victoria. I'm willing to create whatever I need to be your representative in that. I'm going to have some big ears. For those of y'all that don't know me very well, my nickname is Mute. I don't talk as much, I listen more. And I got one little feller out here that I'll point to, Jeff Warner, he's my treasurer, my friend as well. That guy likes to talk with people. He's got this little phrase, he likes to talk to people knee to knee. He likes to get right up close to people and talk to them knee to knee. And that's what I hope that we get to do, is we get to talk knee to knee about what's going on, that it's not just in this great big forum. Thank you.
Mr. McCoy, you'll get the next first question, or the next question. And it is, at a recent discussion organized by the University of Houston Victoria President Bob Glenn, and it's aimed at helping Victoria become a destination community, young professionals talked about their desire to see the city become more pedestrian friendly. What is your plan to do this and to otherwise improve the quality of life in Victoria?
Well, that's a big, tall order there. I lived with trying to attract young professionals in Victoria for a period of probably 30 years in my practice. And I've finally been able to attract, I've got a 12-man firm, and many of them are young people. And as far as attracting them here, I learned you gotta pay them well, and you gotta take care of them and provide them solid benefits. And I think that if companies like mine can do that, that the people coming here as students to UHV will benefit, because once they graduate, there might be an opportunity for them here in this community in Victoria. And I think when you talk about destination, that's one part of that. But in terms of what you provide for young people, you have to listen to young people. You have to engage with them and find out what their interests are. Pedestrian friendly, sure, to the extent you can. You have to improve trails and things around certain areas that the young people are attracted to, primarily the university area. I've heard the need for bike trails, but the most of the issue that I hear from young people is they want a life here. They want a social life here. And we have to do a much better job in attracting retail businesses to this town that offer those opportunities in entertainment and everything else, and also provide opportunities for those young people who are at the university to pick up a little cash in the evenings and working. So there's a lot we need to do for young people in Victoria. We need to first get them here to the university, and then create an economic environment that maybe will entice them to stay here. And that includes our own children as well.
Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir.
The question is, at a recent discussion organized by UHB President Bob Glenn, aimed at helping Victoria become a destination community, young professionals talked about their desire to see the city become more pedestrian friendly. What is your plan to do this and to otherwise improve the quality of life in Victoria?
Well, I think a great thing, when I think of it in the context of what I believe the mayor and the city council can influence, is I think we can do a lot of things to drive the top line in Victoria. Victoria doesn't have a supply problem of things to do. Victoria sometimes has a demand problem of things to do. And what we've got to do is show everyone, everywhere, through the chamber, through the VEDC, that Victoria, Texas is open for business. When business starts coming to Victoria, they start retaining these young people who want and demand a better quality of life. When young people are demanding that there's more restaurants in Victoria, there will be more restaurants in Victoria. There are a lot of things you can't do, certainly as a city council. If you build it, they will come. It's not that way. We've got to create a demand by retaining the people, and the way to retain the people is by showing that this city is welcoming new businesses from all sectors. Especially for me, I believe the distribution business and the skilled labor business are highly desirable and very easy to create in this area. We're at a literal crossroads where you've got 12.5 million people within 2 hours of where we stand. I think it just makes perfect sense to get businesses in here that will then need those people, that will then need places to eat, places to go, and things to do. As far as making Victoria a destination city, I grew up here, and it seemed like we were always going somewhere else. So I think it's going to take time, it's going to take a lot of thought, and it's going to take a lot of community input to make Victoria a true destination city. But I'm all ears and open to the young people's ideas, so let's work together and make it happen.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Thank you. It's long.
The questions aren't the problem, it's the answers.
That's right.
As far as the question about enhancing the livability, if you will, it's interesting to go back. If you look at the City of Victoria's mission statement, and I'll paraphrase this, it actually says that the city is to provide the city's services to enhance the livability of our community. And there's some key things in that deal. Enhance, that's already what you're asking, that's really what the question is. How do we enhance that? The livability in that deal, and the key word that I like in the end of that deal is community. There's not a lot, every single thing that happens in this town, government can't do for you. Government can't do everything for you at the national level, it can't do everything at the state level, and it certainly can't do everything here at the local level. It is incumbent upon all of us as a community, if we want to make Victoria, enhance the livability of Victoria, we've got to get involved in that. We as individuals have to do that through our clubs, through our service groups, through whatever else that we're involved in. We enhance the livability of this community every day by what we do as individuals and what we do as neighbors and in our community. I'm telling you what, we could argue about all kinds of different traits about leaders, but I read somewhere about all leaders share one trait. They're all risk takers. You have to take a risk to actually be a leader. And I applaud all these gentlemen for putting themselves out there, because they're taking a risk when you put yourself out there and say, I'm willing to take this free job. So, I applaud the guys for doing that. But there are things that we could all be doing in this community, whether we're volunteering to be mayor of this town or volunteering to serve on city council. We can volunteer in our organizations and do something else. I'll do what I can do, again, as I know all these other guys will, for what we can do at the city government level. But I need to get out there and lead by example, and let's do stuff individually in our community to enhance that livability.
Thank you, Mr. Meacham. Dr. Morgan, the question is, at a recent discussion organized by UHB President Bob Glenn aimed at helping Victoria become a destination community, young professionals talked about their desire to see the city become more pedestrian friendly. What is your plan to do this and to otherwise improve the quality of life in Victoria?
Over my entire career, can you hear me? Pick it up.
I don't know.
Over my entire career, I've worked with young people, listened to young people, heard what their needs are, what their desires are, what they want to do, and what they want to be. And I can bring that experience to the job as mayor. I'm a collaborator. I believe that we have to come together as a city and decide what we want. And I'm ready to help us get there once we've decided what it is that we want to do relative to being pedestrian friendly and being more welcoming to young people. We have to create things for young people to do. That would involve revitalizing downtown. If downtown were a lively and active place where people go after hours, not just during the day, but after hours, then you've got a great opportunity to help young people. The thing that we have in Victoria is the Small Business Development Center. And I think a lot of the businesses that ought to be created in Victoria ought to be done by the young people who are graduating from our high schools and our colleges and who are coming to this city wanting to make something for themselves. And the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, is a great place to start. They will help. They'll help you get your business started. They'll help you run your business. They'll help these young people create the opportunities for other young people to stay. A lot of college students would love to stay right here in Victoria. We need bike paths, we need trails, we need things for young people to do. And that includes downtown and helping them get into business and get it started. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Carter, you will have the next question. We'll start. And that question is, many experts say Victoria is experiencing an affordable housing crisis. What role do you think the city should play in housing development? Do you consider it the city's job to help attract developers to Victoria?
Thank you. I don't believe that the city of Victoria per se should be in the housing development business. I believe that what the city and the council can do is find ways to review and remove any impedance that's possible from folks that want to develop property. Dear friend Jim Cole is working with Promise Point, and they're helping eliminate homelessness in Victoria, and they're doing it actively and proactively. And they're doing it by, I was in this room, and Jim Cole said, if they can go buy a pack of cigarettes, they can pay rent. And they have folks that are struggling, that need to be trained to do certain things to get back into the workforce. And folks like Promise Point are helping those folks sustain and live. As far as should the city be in the housing business, I think not. We only have a limited amount of square footage inside the city limits. I believe it should be just maximized for productivity. But I don't turn a blind eye to the unavoidable need. And I think that we should find a way to remove as many restrictions as are legally possible from those who want to meet that need. The most disappointing thing I think I would ever hear is if someone said, I want to help. I have a coalition. I have a group and some investors, but the city is fighting me. I want to be the guy that removes those restrictions as much as is legally possible. We're all governed by the state, and to a degree, there's things that we can and cannot do. But I want to promote folks that want to make a difference, and there are plenty of them in this city. So I've been fortunate to meet lots of them, and Promise Point's just one that jumps. I'm having lunch Thursday with Cindy Staley from Habitat for Humanity. It's an ongoing struggle, and it's one that we should all embrace together.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Mr. Meacham, the question is, many experts say Victoria is experiencing an affordable housing crisis. What role do you think the city should play in housing development, and do you consider it the city's job to help attract developers to Victoria?
I agree with the experts that we actually have that problem. I will also, though, agree with Brent that I don't know that that's necessarily the city's job to do that. Get back to our mission statement about enhancing, providing city services that enhance the livability. It's not a city service to provide housing. I am excited though by the fact that the Salvation Army is back here in town. That provides a pathway to away from living off the streets. I mean, they actually have some counseling that they work with people on that. I'm excited about what happened with Promise Point. If you go back to my last answer of even what I was talking about, it's us as a community working together through our service groups and that kind of stuff. We can do those kind of things as a community, but I don't think government can do that. I don't think that's where you want your dollars spent, that you get either paying sales tax or you paying property tax or you paying fees around town. Because it's going right now to pay for the services that you already have. And that's a service that we're not providing right now. So if we want to pony up for all that, and if you as a community say that that's what we want to do, I'm willing to pony up for that and I'm willing to do that, then sure, let's do it. But that ought to be something from that ought to be from you as a community telling us as your leadership that that's what I want to do. And that's an expectation that I have of you as government, as local government. That's not part of the mission statement, I don't believe, of the city at this point in time. But if you want to change that, I'm willing to talk about that. But anyway, that's my answer on that deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meacham. Try that microphone. There it is. All right. The question is, many experts say Victoria is experiencing affordable housing crisis. What role do you think the city should play in housing development? And do you consider it the city's job to attract developers to Victoria?
I think, as the others have discussed, I think eliminating impediments to the developers and the building of affordable housing is an important aspect of what the city can do. In terms of the city helping with the problem, I think, again, we have to come together, we have to talk about what the problems are, we have to look at ways to resolve those problems, not with just the city government, but with the county, with the private businesses in the community, with the nonprofits, with the people who provide grants. I think we pull together a coalition of all those people and try to decide what the best way is to provide affordable housing in the city of Victoria. While the city does not have a role in building houses for people, we have given land for Habitat for Humanity, and they have built houses. We can do other things, but we can form coalitions, we can pull people together, we can talk about the problems, we can decide what we can do, and then do what we can do. I don't think, again, as others have said, that the city ought to be building houses for folks, but we certainly can move forward with helping the developers build and find places to build and help them get by the issues that would create problems that keep housing from being affordable as it is built. It's a difficult job for builders to build a place without putting the things in there that cause the price to be up there. But we've got to figure out ways to help them, help the builders, help the developers, and help the real estate folks to make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. The question is, many experts say Victoria is experiencing an affordable housing crisis. What role do you think the city should play in housing development, and do you consider it the city's job to attract developers to Victoria?
Well, as one being active in many organizations that deal with helping people that are struggling in Victoria, it's easy to see why there's a problem with affordable housing. One of the biggest issues that I discovered in doing research on Victoria was from Workforce Solutions of the Golden Crescent here. I got some economic data on Victoria. The cost of living in Victoria County is 98.7% of the national average. The rest of Texas is 94.3%. The average wage in Victoria is somewhere north of $44,000, where the average wage in America is $55,000. The rest of Texas is $56,000. I think the city needs to delve into the issue of why our cost of living is so high in Victoria. And I think therein lies the problem. I was at the seminar put on by the University of Houston, Victoria. And actually the first seminar, where I was the only one there were no public officials there. I was the one trying to get elected. The problem was pointed out that people can barely just fall just under the minimum amount of income to get into an apartment. And so therein lies our problem. We got to get this economy moving. And yes, the city could play a role in it by acknowledging the problem and helping nonprofits find available grant money and aid all of these people out here in Victoria who are working tirelessly to help the homeless. We need to take care of the social issues that lead to homelessness. There's a myriad of issues. My involvement with Gulf Bend Mental Health Center is trying to make inroads in that as well. So it's a complex problem, but it's not so complicated that we can't solve it.
Thanks, Mr. Meacham, the next question, you'll start. And it is, the city is about to receive millions of dollars in federal funding for significant infrastructure projects. What do you see as the greatest infrastructure need post-Harvey?
I don't think that, for instance, we get people talking about the streets. I don't think that the streets are it. I think one of the things is that we need, as far as the most critical, I think one of the most critical things that we need to make sure that we have happen, if we have another event like Harvey, and I know that the city's already done a lot of work on this, so there's already been some things that have been done to enhance our water and sewer, but those type things like that, making sure that we had this real crisis during Harvey. I know at my house, I didn't have water for 10 days. I didn't have electrical services. Getting the city cleaned back up to where people could even move around to provide basic services were issues. So I would just try to make sure that the things that we have in place, the systems that we have in place, that we have redundancy in those systems, that when something goes down, that there's something else that flips the switch to come back on, to make sure that those things are provided to us as quickly and as efficiently as we can have that happen. Because I know that was a real, I mean, I sat around and there was everybody on the phone. One of my friends, Gary Milton, a former mayor, he was on the phone every day with our current mayor, talking about what was going on with water and electricity and all around town, and making sure that things were getting cleaned up where those services could be provided. So I would make sure I would be looking for the redundancy in the systems that we have in place, making sure that we've got fail-safe programs in place to provide the basic services that the city provides.
Thank you, Mr. Beecham. Dr. Morgan, the question is, the city is about to receive millions of dollars in federal funding for significant infrastructure projects. What do you see as the greatest infrastructure need post-Harvey?
I think, as Mr. Beecham said, I think redundancy in our services are incredibly important. We have a pretty good hazard team and facility to work through crises like the hurricane. I think the city is working hard. They're buying generators ahead of the money that's supposed to come to make sure that we can keep water and sewer and other things online. I think probably those essential services are the greatest need that we have in making sure that they're available. Gas, water, electricity, and the other things that we need just for the basics. The other issues relative to the hurricane, of course, is dealing with the people whose homes are destroyed, and how do we deal with those issues? How do we get around to folks that don't even have a place to live, much less water and electricity? And I don't know what the answer to that is, other than the question that we talked about a while ago in affordable housing. But it is necessary that we use the resources that we have coming to revitalize the city, to make sure we have those redundancies that we need to keep the services at a level where we can survive after a storm or after another crisis that creates those problems for us.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan.
Well, obviously,
You got it? Okay.
Well, obviously, the first thing we need to do is make sure that what happened with our water supply never happens again. I don't know about other people, but when I learned that our water towers were allowed to drain dry, I was livid. There was no excuse for that to happen. Somebody in that room somewhere should have known never to allow that to happen. The city of Victoria, because of that incident, was without fire protection. Our entire city was without fire protection for several days. Somebody should have known not to let that happen. So I'm glad to see finally that council is moving forward to mitigate that problem. And I'm glad to see that there are generators to be put in place. I'm just sad that it didn't happen before this last hurricane season, but it's happening now, and that's a good sign. The other thing post-Harvey that I wish could happen is to start spending a little money on preparation. I have been going to the long-term recovery groups meetings for several times now, and at one of them I met Michael Cloud, who was there. And I talked to him for a pretty good while after the meeting about seeing if we could get FEMA involved to help the city in spending this, to do more pre-planning for these events. I think there's a lot we can do in pre-planning that would put us in a position to be able to better respond to these emergencies in the future. And when you plan these events, for these events in detail, the ultimate mitigation sort of takes care of itself. And the amount of money you spend after the fact will be less than you would have to spend if you did not pre-plan. So there's a lot of things we can do with that money, but let's get ourselves prepared for the next event.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. The question is, the city is about to receive millions of dollars in federal funding for significant infrastructure projects. What do you see as the greatest infrastructure need post-Harvey?
First of all, I want to applaud the city council for moving forward with, they've purchased the first, or approved the purchase of the first, over $900,000 generator. So that's your tax dollars at work. These generators are not free. There's 2 more that are scheduled to come in ASAP, but they're also scheduled to be funded from different sources than just like the general budget. So they're working together to do that. I was very blessed to be at Texas Day or Victoria Day at the Texas Legislature and get to listen to Nim Kidd talk about, he's the Texas Emergency Management Director, basically Texas, the head gentleman of Texas version of FEMA, if you will. He emphasized to our group, the most important thing you can do is have adequate limits of insurance at your home. If FEMA shows up to solve your problem, you got problems. Okay, the federal government doesn't show up to solve your problems. They're mostly going to be in the way. My still biggest issue for this city, post Harvey, post Carla, post Beulah, post Celia, is the roads. We need to fix our streets. We need to make Victoria a more inviting city for people to come to so that they want to bring their business here. If we have more businesses here, we have more revenue. We have more revenue, we solve these problems more readily. And I promise you that when the next storm is about to approach, somebody on city council is going to say, hey, fill the water towers up. It's going to happen. We learn as we go, and sometimes it's not always good, good incidences that most wisdom is the result of a bad event. So we no doubt have learned from it, and folks, you lived through a terrible storm, and we did it together as a city, and we'll be better prepared next time together. So I applaud all of you.
Thank you, Mr. And Dr. Morgan, this will be the last question of the evening for the mayor candidates, and it is, why are you the best person to unite and lead the city during the next 4 years? What leadership qualities do you think are most important in the mayor? And please tell us some examples of how you have demonstrated these leadership skills more than your opponents have.
Well, I think, as I said when I opened, I've been a university president for about 25 years. And those leadership qualities are what bring people together. And that's what you have to do. The university is a very special place, just like the city is a very special place. You have to get people together, you have to get people talking about what the issues are, you have to be transparent in the decisions that you make, you have to involve the entire community in those decisions. You have to listen, you mostly have to listen, because you don't have all the answers as a leader. If you've got all the answers as a leader, you end up with you're the only one that's got any thoughts about what ought to be done. And that doesn't work, because the rest of the folks have ideas that are maybe as good or better than yours. And if you make a bad decision, you've got to be willing to listen to people and let them say, Morgan, that was a dumbass idea. You need to do something different with that. And so you've got to be willing to do that. You've got to get your ego out of the way. You've got to be a servant. You've got to be a servant leader. You've got to find out what people want, and you have to try to help them get there. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you, Dr. Mr. McCoy, the question is, why are you the best person to unite and lead the city during the next 4 years? What leadership qualities do you think are most important in a mayor? Please list examples of how you have demonstrated these leadership skills more than your opponents have.
Well, I think a lot of leadership is listening. It's listening and engaging people in conversation. I've been involved in many civic organizations over the years. I was one of the co-founders of VBAC here in Victoria. I've served in Rotary. I've served on state Texas Society of Architects, government affairs committees. I've been on their Harvey Task Force group. I've had many leadership positions in my church, and on in many capacities. I've seemed to have risen to the leadership role in the organizations I've been involved in. One of the things that I would like to see happen, and I think would be my style in coming in and leading city council. City council are 7 unique people, all intelligent, with a lot to contribute. I would like to see our meeting style reformatted to allow when there's singular issues that involve our community, and they're very important to the community, I would like to have work sessions where we can have real discussions about issues. I would like people to stand across that table and discuss, not make a motion first and have all of this convoluted, Robert's Rules of Orders. That has its place in certain areas, but when serious issues need to be discussed, they need to be discussed. And people need to be able to look one another in the eye and say, well, Jeff, why do you feel that way? Let's talk about it. Leadership, the best way to be a leader is to form consensus. You try to bring 7 people together to discuss an issue and arrive at consensus. Consensus isn't right or wrong. Consensus is agreement. And once you get 7 people to agree on something, and then you move forward with that, decisions made through consensus are always more long-lasting than any other method.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Carter, the question is, why are you the best person to unite and lead the city during the next 4 years? What leadership qualities do you think are most important in a mayor? And please list examples of how you have demonstrated these leadership skills more than your opponents have.
Well, I think the leadership skills that are most important in a mayor are going to be the ability to work towards consensus, to deal with relationships, to deal with tough issues with compassion, and to listen to your fellow council members. Being first among 7 is not something to brag about. It's something to count as a huge responsibility. I think being able to sit and talk to the county, very fortunate, a very strong relationship with several of our precinct guys and our county commissioners and Judge Zeller, to the point that the synergies that could be vital to help our city, they're just not being maximized. And there's things that can be done to help there. There's things that we can do better when it comes to retaining our first responders. I've already got a program fairly well lined out that's going to help with that based on their health insurance. You know, when I wanted to learn about how to revitalize downtown, I went to Miss Louise Patillo and I got a hold of a disc on the Main Street project, which led me to Torrin Bales, who introduced me to Mary Helen Barrick. That's what I do. My skill set is all about getting the people in the room to get things done. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I know where to go to find them. And that skill set was developed over a lifetime, a career of getting someone's risk transferred to someone else as we worked on insurance programs. It's financial services, it's just dealing with the issues at hand. I'm a relationship guy, it's a relationship business, and I want to do it for all Victorians. So I'll just do the best I can, and communication will be wide open via the Wade and Carter radio program. You can call me every morning and say, hey, you still ain't fixed my pothole. I'm right there, call me anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Mr. Meacham, why are you the best person to unite and lead the city during the next 4 years? What leadership qualities do you think are most important in a mayor? And please list examples of how you have demonstrated these leadership skills more than your opponents have.
I'll tell you, answer to that deal, I hate to talk about myself. But about why am I better than somebody else? That's a really tough question for me to answer. I will tell you that I think in order to be a leader, one of the things you have to have been before you could be a leader is you had to be a follower, and you had to be a servant. You had to grow up kind of through the ranks in that deal. I do have some military experience. Was in the Corps at Texas A&M, and one of the things, you know, you're the lowest low level of everything before you ever get to be up there near the top. I look at also, you know, one of the greatest leaders, world leaders that we've ever had, Jesus Christ, and he's a foot washer. I mean, that's the guy that he's a servant first. That's what he did, is he came up and served. And if you have a servant's attitude about being a leader in this community, that's the guy that I want working for me. So if you say who's going to be the best, I want the guy who's going to be really, he's serving me. That's his first and foremost goal, is to serve me. If I go back and look at what have I accomplished in some of those things, I have got, me personally, I've received very few if any, that I can think of, individual awards. That Steve got an award for something that he did. But you know, Steve's been a part of a lot of great teams. When I ran our bank brokerage program at the bank, we were recognized as the #1 community-based bank program in the entire country. Outfits that I've worked with in the military got recognition for awards as the best outfits in particular deals like that. I've always been part of a good team. So it's not about a me award, it's about us as a team, and Victoria, we're a family, we're a community, we're a team, and I think I can serve y'all in that role.
At this time, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing, so we'll go in reverse order. So, Mr. Meacham, if you'd like to close.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank the folks for providing this forum, and I'm really excited to see as much interest as I see in this room. And I know there are people that are out there also watching this on Facebook, and there will be people that will be reviewing this over the next few days. One of the ways that we're going to be able to enhance the livability of our community, and I've already touched on this, is us as a team working together, us as a community working together in this deal. I really believe, I'm inspired by what I get to see people do. I get to work down at Christ Kitchen with some really cool people down there that they come in there, the people that show up there in canes. There's a lady here tonight that works down there, she wears a back brace, you know. There are people that are struggling to get there to help somebody else. So I know we've got this servant attitude as a community, and I just want to bring it out. I want to bring it out, and I want us to be doing more to move Victoria forward. Thank you.
1 minute close, Mr. Carter.
Thank you. First of all, thank all of you for coming out. It's great to see the city involved in what's going on. It's great to see all of you. I look out and see folks of all different ages, and many of whom are friends, a few who aren't, and that's okay. That's the way we roll. I do want to tell you that my commitment to you as mayor is going to be to relentlessly pound out the fact that Victoria, Texas is open for business. The thing we have to do is grow our business base here in this community. Everything else will come with that. Demand will come. Infrastructure will come. Roads will come. 6,000 students will come. They'll find a reason to stay here because we're going to grow this community's business base. That's what I'm committed to do. I believe that's the role of the city council, and then we're going to hold this new city manager highly accountable. We're going to hold this person accountable. They're the ones making the big bucks. They're the ones who need to have the answers to how we're going to get these things done. I look forward to being on the think tank and on the directive side with the council, and I look forward to serving you.
Mr. McCoy, 1 minute.
Okay. I was born and raised in Victoria and chose this as a place I wanted to live, raise a family, and establish a business. And for over 40 years, I've done just that. Not only have I been successful as an architect in Victoria, I've also worked with business and community leaders all over Texas. I've also worked closely with numerous public entities, including cities, counties, school districts, colleges, and universities, and therefore understand how public entities must operate in the best interest of the public. I've also served many local organizations, my church, City of Victoria boards and commissions, Texas Society of Architects committees and task forces in leadership positions. I'm totally dedicated to this campaign, and as I've told my supporters, I'm in it to win it. And I can assure you that if elected, I will use my 40 years of experience and demonstrated service to this community as a foundation for moving Victoria forward. No other candidate in this race can match my proven record. Thank you, and I sincerely ask for your vote.
Dr. Morgan, 1 minute to close.
Hey, thanks for being here, and I'm the person you've been waiting for ever since you got here, the last speaker. Let me emphasize my commitment and accessibility to all citizens in Victoria. Transparency in city government, proven leadership skills and experience is what I bring to the table. Cooperation and collaboration with Victoria County, the businesses in this community, the people in this community, the nonprofits and others. When I meet the city manager candidates next Thursday, My first question of them is gonna be, do you play well with others? Give me an example of how you've worked in the past with the county. They've all had city experiences, worked with the county, with businesses, with people, with nonprofits, with foundations and others who provide money, and ask them if they have that experience. That's what I'm looking for in a city manager to help us move forward. I think it's an exciting time. I look forward to serving as your mayor, and I hope that you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for taking a risk, as we said tonight, and putting your name on a ballot. I've been there, I've done it, and I've been on both sides. I've been on a winner and I've been on a loser. And I know what it takes to run an election, and I congratulate you all, and I thank you all for stepping up. I would remind everybody that the election is May 4th. Early voting starts the 22nd of April and ends on the 30th of April, and then the election day is May 4th. We're going to take a little break while we switch and get the new candidates up. Again, thank you for being here. Gentlemen, thank you very much.